Gamers, what's good? We have a Voiceless Voice here. This is my favorite deck from the new set, and so it's definitely going to be the one that I want to cover first. I've practiced it a lot, and honestly, I really like this deck. Now, I will say I've seen some people and some content creators say that this deck is top tier, which is not true. So, you know, if you were trying to get the next big top tier thing, don't go building this deck. It's really expensive. And in my opinion, it's like tier 3, you know? I still think it's really solid. I think it's about even with Centurion. I also think Centurion is tier 3, by the way. I think that deck's a little underrated. But yeah, this deck has a lot of things going for it. It's a really good ritual deck, suffering mostly from sometimes having unfortunate or like awkward hands where you basically can't do much of anything. You'll be like stuck on staples. Just because it's a ritual deck, you'll have a ritual that doesn't do anything, or you know, you'll have pre-preparation of rites, but the hand traps you have in hand are too small to be able to ritual summon, like situations like that. Other than that, I do think the deck is really good. It's a nice mid-range type of deck. It has a solid combo going first, but you know, you won't always get that linear combo, and even when you don't, you know, you definitely have a lot of ways of establishing yourself, establishing some solid interruption, targeting protection, playing around Nibiru. All that stuff is pretty easy to do with a decent amount of space also for staples, although I do feel like deck space is a little tight for this deck, so you got to be really careful. For example, I really wanted to run Droplet because this deck can struggle at going second, and a card like Droplet can really help you crack open the board. But if I wanted to run Droplet, I would have to go over 40, which I'm not necessarily trying to do, specifically because of those often unfortunate hands. So definitely, I don't think this deck is solved. There's so many different playstyles and builds. There's a super poly build that a lot of people like. There's a build where you run some Dogmatica cards, or like Nadir Servants is quite good in this deck. So yeah, we'll talk about all those options that I'm not running when we do the card by card at the end. For now, what I want to show you is this really good combo that I learned from Prophecy Wiz, which is a smaller channel on YouTube that's pretty much dedicated to Voiceless Voice as far as I can tell. So shout out to Prophecy Wiz. I will link the channel in the description, and if you want to play Voiceless Voice, I actually really recommend checking out his channel. He had a bunch of videos dedicated to the deck. Sure, he's more TCG focused, but I mean, honestly, a lot of the stuff that he was doing, I was able to apply to Master Duel, and I started doing a lot better with the deck after that. All right, so let's start off with some combos. Since this is a new deck, you know, I feel like instead of showing you replays and stuff, I probably want to introduce you to these cards. So we have here low, and we're going to ignore the rest of the hand. We're actually just going to play low as if we had nothing else in hand to see how far just a low can take us. So we can go for low, activate low effect, and you can set up the barrier of the Voiceless. Then we're just going to ignore Trias here. We're going to go for the effect of barrier of the Voiceless, and we can add to our hand the Saphira. Saphira is really insane. This card basically can ritual summon using its effect from grave, and it can discard itself to dump a ritual spell and search a ritual monster from your deck. So you can actually go for Saphira effect here, discard it, and dump a Prayers of the Voiceless to add to your hand your main guy, Skull Guardian. And Skull Guardian is insane, right? It's an Omni Negate while you have low on the field, and when you summon it, low is going to get her graveyard effect to come back from the graveyard. So here we can go for Saphira, activate the graveyard effect. We're not using Trias, we're ignoring the rest of the hand here. So tributing the low, get to summon out the Skull Guardian, Protector of the Voiceless. Then you get to trigger both of these effects. So I like to go Chainlink 1 Skull Guardian, Chainlink 2 low, so that they can't Ash the Skull Guardian. If you were in a format where a lot of people played Ghost Spell, I would go the opposite way because you really want this low to hit the field. It's pretty important. So here you can summon a low. And then with Skull Guardian here, since we're like acting as if we had no other cards in hand, most of the stuff that you can do here won't really do anything. You only have one spell engraved, so you can't shuffle back 2 spells with Cerevis. So since we're just doing a 1-card combo here, I'm just going to add the Pendulum Graph, and we're just not going to use the trap card, and I'll show you what we do here. It's definitely not bad, it's just not ideal, I suppose, but really it's just because we're just doing a 1-card combo. So using these two here, you can make a Dynamondo, and this does play into Called By, keep in mind. So really this is just like trying to heighten the ceiling as much as possible for the 1-card combo that this deck has with low. So, you know, you can go for Pendulum Graph here, and as you can see, this is all off of just the low. You know, we didn't use any card in hand here. So we could go to end phase, and on the end phase, our Pendulum Graph is going to trigger in the grave to add itself back to the hand, and we also get to search a Prayer of the Voiceless from the deck. Very important that we do that. So basically on opponent's turn here, they get to draw in draw phase. We can go for Dynamondo, tribute itself to summon back the Skull Guardian. and you want to special summon it to the field. And then you get the effect of Low Engrave to special summon herself as well, like so. And then Low, basically here you could choose between having the trap or having Blessing. And what this will dictate is basically with the trap, you could either pop one card or use its effect to summon the Cerevis, which can then bounce itself to summon the ritual version of Cerevis. Or otherwise, you could get the Blessing, and then if your opponent summons anything, you would be able to go and ritual summon Odd Ice Pendulum Graph Dragon, which could be really useful. Keep in mind, you'll want to do this after you already use the Omni Negate of this card, because you'll have to use the Low as material to summon your Odd Ice Pendulum Graph. So it's either a Spell Negate or a Summon Negate, essentially, slash popping a card. So I mean, here we're just going to go for the Blessing just to show that card in action. After, when we do like the full combo, not just like a one card combo with Low, we'll be able to show you some more stuff. So here yeah, okay, so we don't get to use any of our interruption. Okay, so they activated a card, so we're going to use at least the Omni Negate of Skull Guardian, but it seems like the bot is not going to be special summoning anything. I mean, I guess it doesn't really change much. Okay, I'll just do this. I'll literally just do this to show you Blessing, activate, you know, so yeah, just because my opponent didn't summon anything, we'll just like pretend that they did, just so I can do this. So Blessing, if anything is summoned, it can be your opponent's card, it can be your own card. You'll get to activate this, and then you get to ritual summon on opponent's turn and drop down a nice spell negate, right? So that's Blessing. I would have liked for the bot to just summon something, but, you know, it is what it is. It's fine. So that's going to be it pretty much for this combo. I don't want to go too in-depth on some basic-ass combo. That wasn't even full combo. The next combo we're going to do actually is going to be with Diviner, and that's going to be your best combo. All right, and as for your best combo, your bread and butter, really, it's Diviner plus Barrier, and I want to give another shout-out to Prophecy Wiz for showing me this line. This is a really, really strong line, definitely the most interruption you'll get to set up, and it checks for a lot of hand traps, too, so we're going to talk about that here. So we're just going to ignore all three of these cards here. We're going to pretend they don't exist, okay? We're just playing these two. We have our Barrier, which is what we start with, and we activate Barrier. We go for Barrier effect to search, and right here, that checks for Ghost Ogre, and it kind of checks for Ash. At this point, you can add a Saphira to hand. Then when you add the Saphira to hand, if they don't droll, you checked for droll. At this point, you can go for Saphira effect, and this is like another way of searching for, checking for Ash, if you will. And you get to add to your hand the Cerevis, actually, because you'll already be able to get Skull Guardian later. Cerevis is going to be a really useful way of protecting yourself from Imperm or Veiler. So at this point, we have this to protect from targeting. We can summon our Diviner, and we can go for Diviner effect to send a Trias to the grave. So we send the Trias, then we can just go ahead and activate the Trias effect in grave, tributing the Diviner. That specials the Trias, and we get, with the Diviner effect, to summon a Low from the deck. So special summon out the Low here, and with Low, you want to activate the trap card, Radiance, here. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but basically the trap card is either removal by sending itself. You can pop cards your opponent controls up to the number of ritual monsters that you have on the field, or you also have the effect once per turn of shuffling back a ritual spell or a ritual monster from your hand or grave into the deck to special summon a Voiceless Voice monster from your deck. That first effect is definitely the one you're going to be using more often. It's really, really good for this deck. It can also search a ritual with that first effect, I forgot to mention. So anyway, at this point with these two, you want to go into IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena adds so much to this deck. It's actually incredible. It's just so much more versatility on opponent's turn. The options you get from IP Masquerena are really, really something to behold. So ideal scenario, you want to have IP on your field if you can. Like the board state with IP, the trap, and like the Low plus the negate ritual on field is your ideal board state. So here we want to go for the effect of Radiance of the Voiceless, and we want to search for our skull guy. I forget the name. Hold on, what's his name again? Skull Guardian. That's who. Yeah, let's just call him Guardian. So you get to search Guardian here, add it to the hand, and then you can go for the graveyard effect of Saphira to ritual summon the Skull Guardian. So we're going to ritual summon the Skull Guardian here. And we're going to use the Cerevis in hand as material. Like, we could use the Low here, but we're pretending we don't have this Low in hand. So I'm just going with the cards that we used in this two-card combo. We searched this Cerevis earlier in our two-card combo. So we're just going to ignore that Low like I said earlier. So use the Cerevis here, summon out the Skull Guardian Protector. And then you can go Skull Guardian Chainlink 1, and then you can go for Low Chainlink 2 in case they held Ash for the Skull Guardian. Alternatively, at this point, if you feel like they definitely don't have Ash, you could actually just go Skull Guardian Chainlink 2 just so that, you know, you can guarantee that you'll get your low on the field. You do really want this low on the field after all. So anyways, Skull Guardian here gets to search, and what you want to search with the Skull Guardian is going to be the Pendulum Graph. I mean, some people might want to search Saravis, but you can actually summon Saravis on opponent's turn using the trap, and Pendulum Graph is just really, really valuable, and you'll be able to set it up on opponent's turn. So here we go. We grab the Pendulum Graph here. We can scale up this Pendulum Graph, and in end phase, it'll search a ritual spell like we saw earlier. So here we go. That's it. That's your whole board. That's how you pass. You go end phase. Pendulum Graph effect. Sorry, yeah, add the prayers and then add back the Pendulum Graph to hand. And then I'm worried that this bot won't do enough. Okay. Yeah, this bot is not going to be doing much of anything. Let's see, like maybe they activate a spell or something. Not even? Okay, whatever. We'll just show you our options here. We'll just ignore that this bot is not doing anything because it's really just the point of showing what you can do. So let's just say they activated something and then you used your Omni Negate on Skull Guardian. So this is used up. You don't really care for it anymore. You can go for the Skull Guardian, the Trap Card effect, and you can shuffle back a ritual from your grave into the deck. You're going to shuffle the Saravis from grave back into the deck here. And from deck, you can summon another copy of Low. So special to Low. All right, Low activates, and you get to set up the Blessing of the Voiceless. Then at this point, you could go for IP Masquerena, go into Appaloosa, or really whatever you want. You know, IP could be a good option here. Sometimes if I have the, since we have Diviner in grave, it can be worth it to go Elf. Elf can summon Diviner. Diviner can then send the Elder Entis, as another form of removal. So there's a couple ways that you can play this out. But here, let's just go for Appaloosa to get the max amount of interruption, right? So we can use the Skull Guardian that already uses Negate, the Low, and the IP Masquerena. Go into our Appaloosa. And because a non-ritual monster was summoned, we get to go for the Blessing here. Blessing allows us to ritual summon out the Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon using the Low on the field. So summon out our Spell Negate. And then we get to trigger the graveyard effect of Low and bring it back because we didn't use that yet actually this turn. So there we go. At this point, we got another 4 negates. So that was like 5 negates that we got, plus the interruption from the trap card if we needed it. So really, I think that's about as good as it gets for like interruption on a 2-card combo for this deck. It's a really, really good combo. And that's why I wanted to show it to you. I feel like it's also a good way to introduce you to how all the cards work in tandem with each other. Now, I'm not going to be beating up on this bot here. I think I showed you everything you need to see, at least for your mainline combos. This is especially just to help introduce you to the archetype. One last line I want to show you. This is kind of a goofy line, but it saved me in a pickle. And this is also a line that's coming to you from Prophecy Wiz. So shout out to him. Honestly, you should really check out his channel. He's got a lot of really good stuff on Voiceless. But this line, basically, we're just going to ignore everything else in hand. It's for scenarios where you have like Low and Skull Guardian, which does happen quite a bit, especially when you're trying to play through interruption and stuff like that, on like going second and stuff. You might end up getting all your stuff negated. You might try to bait out a bunch of interruption just so you can land that Low normal summon. And if you have Skull Guardian in hand, you have access to a pretty good play. It's the reason you're running Almirage as well as Secure Gardener in the extra. So we're going to go for Low here. Low effect. And we're going to actually get the Blessing instead here. Keep in mind, we're just ignoring all these cards. And what you can do at this point is you can go Almirage. And you can go for the effect of Blessing to add back Low to the hand. Oh, we're not going to do this yet. But we're going to go for the effect of Blessing to add Low back to the hand. And basically from here, again, we're ignoring all these cards in hand here. You could, Link Summon Secure Gardener. And this will proc your ritual spell, your Blessing. So you can go for this and ritual summon your Skull Guardian this way. So, Skull Guardian using the Low. We're ignoring all the other cards in hand here. Summon the Skull Guardian. And this can start opening up your plays again, at this point. And you can start maybe popping off a little bit with the Skull Guardian and the Low coming back from the grave. So you get yourself your Omni Negate. You have a big body on the field. You can start maybe potentially clearing some cards, different things like that. So it's definitely, it's kind of a niche play, but it's certainly not bad. You might just want to grab a Saravis just for targeting protection if the game is that simplified, or if in this scenario you had not used Saphira yet or something like that, you could actually just grab a Saphira. So it would depend on the scenario, but this is a pretty useful niche play that you have access to. If you don't like this play and you feel like it's a bit redundant, I mean, you don't have to run the Secure Garden and the Almirage, but I just kind of wanted to show why I'm running them, because otherwise it looks kind of random. This is better as a package to run if you're running Nadir Servant with the Maximus. I just really didn't want to craft the 2 Nadir Servant, honestly, even though probably is better for the deck to have them, but we're going to talk about all those deck choices in the card by card at the end. Anyway, that's it for the combos. Okay, and as for results in ladder, keep in mind, yes, I'm in Diamond, but the new season started I think like 2 or 3 days ago at the time of recording this, so I haven't had a lot of time in ladder yet, but I've played a lot of games. If you want to check my match history here, currently on a 5-game win streak. My biggest loss streak was here. It was a 3-game loss streak, and right before that I had another 5-game win streak. This is around where I modified my deck to follow more in line with the list that Prophecy Wiz had. It's not exactly the same list. I don't even run Nadir Servant, which he does run. Main reason for that being that it's at 3 in TCG and it's at 2 in here, and I don't really like the idea of running a 2 Nadir Servant for 1 Maximus, because Maximus is not like a great draw on his own. So yeah, that was kind of my logic for it, but still, I mean, I've been doing pretty good with the deck. I think it's pretty solid, and I'm pretty confident I'll get to master with it. Probably going to do that on stream, actually. Next time I stream, probably just going to play some Voiceless Voice. All right, and let's just go straight into the card by card. I know this is a bit of a different format, I guess, for a deck profile that I'm trying. I don't know if people will like it. Especially because it's a new archetype. I figured maybe just showing combos, introducing people to the cards and stuff like that would be really useful. And I don't know if like doing a bunch of replays and stuff would really be that great for now. Just trying something different. Let me know in the comments if you like it, if it's useful, or if you'd rather just me go back to doing a little bit of replay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, But with that being said, this is the list that I went for. And the first thing I'll say is there's definitely a lot of changes you can make. There's a lot of different builds for this deck that make a lot of sense and different tech options. So I would say this is not a solved list at all, but I do think this is a really, really solid way to play the deck, and you can't really go wrong with my list. But if you have them, I really don't see a point in not running Nadir Servant. It's just this set cost me so much that I really didn't want to craft more UR. But if you have like Maximus and Nadir Servant, this is a really strong package for the deck, just because obviously you can dump the Herald of the Arclight with the Maximus, and then you get to search a ritual, right? So it adds some consistency to your deck. Also, the Maximus is a level 8 monster, so you can use this as your tribute fodder for your ritual summon. So it's definitely got some good synergy, not to mention going second, Nadir Servant, you can use it to send Entis and get some removal, or on going first, you can go for a Garura and then you get a draw. There's also the fact for me that if this was at 3, I would have went for it, but the fact that I'm running 2 of these for 1 Maximus is also what's kind of making me not want to run it. But if you have them, I would say try it out. It's definitely a solid tech option for the deck. And Voiceless doesn't really need to go into their extra deck too often, so it's definitely super good. Another thing, a lot of people run Super Poly in this deck, and I think Super Poly is also really, really solid as an option, because going second can be rough and board breaking can be tough, and Yubel is a bad matchup. So like if you want to go for the Super Poly route and run Garura, run Mud Dragon, all that stuff, I don't think you can really go wrong with that. I think that's definitely a solid way to play it. I ended up not going for that. I decided I'd rather have more options in the extra deck, and it's also just because Super Poly hasn't been too kind to me in the past format. So even though it's good against Yubel, I just decided I'll just not go for Super Poly, especially with people playing a little bit of towers right now. But who knows? I might come back around and try this variant again at some point. So, it's at your discretion how you want to play the deck. I just wanted to mention those tech options as something you might want to do. Now for my list, for the card by card, I have 3 low, of course. The deck kind of revolves around low. We have 3 copies of Maxi, 3 copies of Diviner. This is low 2.0. It's just a better low, basically. Insane card. Triple Ash Blossom, triple Saphira. This card is just so damn good. It's so good. The fact that it can ritual summon and search a ritual is just, it's too good, man. This card is insane. Sarvis, this is a one of. Oftentimes you can summon this off of your Radiance trap, and we didn't really get to see this video, but basically Sarvis can bounce himself into the Sarvis ritual monster during opponent's turn if they activate anything. So this is really, really good. This means any time that you can like land this monster on the field, you can expect to have a really good monster special summon negate. So yeah, Sarvis, good card. Trias is a must run because it tributes Diviner of the Herald, which triggers the Diviner Tribute effect to summon low. We have our Nibiru in here. Nibiru, not a must play necessarily, especially because I'm not running Cross Out, which might seem really weird. But yeah, I'm mostly running Nibiru because it's won me a lot of games, and it's a big monster I can use for ritual summoning, so I like having a Nibiru around, you know, for when they decide to take the Maxi Challenge, for example. 2 copies of Skull Guardian. This is obviously your best ritual. It's kind of it's your boss monster, you know. 1 copy of Pendulum Craft. This is absolutely a must-have card. It's so important for your deck to be able to negate a spell. Not to mention, this guy will go to the back row and return itself to your hand during the end phase, so you can actually reuse this guy a couple of times throughout a duel if it gets into a really long grind game. Triple Pre-Preparation of Rites. I don't love this card. It is a must play, especially because a lot of the time this is the card that's going to bait out Ash Blossom, and then you can use your other cards, you know, to just do your actual plays. But I'm not a huge fan of pre-preparation of rights, because adding like a Skull Guardian and a ritual spell to your hand without other engine cards basically does nothing. Like, you need a monster at least that you can use as material so that you can ritual summon your Skull Guardian. So, you know, I don't love it, but it is like a necessary card, I guess. 2 copies of Talents. This card, I'm considering running a 3, honestly. Pretty much every time I see this card, I'm happy about it. It's just so insane. 1 copy of Prosperity, 2 of Prayers. This is your ritual spell. This card is really important, both like in hand, but also as a resource in grave, because, well, you can shuffle it back with your trap card to summon like Voiceless Voice monsters from your deck. So definitely pay attention to your Prayers. Also, if you don't have a Prayers in your deck, you won't be able to activate Saphira because you need to dump Prayers. So definitely pay attention to where your Prayers are located in your deck. Very important. But yeah, this is it's a pretty good ritual spell. I mean, honestly, for a ritual spell, it's solid, especially because it has the effect that if a face-up light ritual monster you control leaves the field, you can banish this card and special summon one of your ritual monsters from your hand or deck, ignoring summoning conditions. So, you know, it's got a nice floating effect on top of it, which is not super usual for a ritual spell, so I really like that. We have 3 Barrier. This is a consistency card. It protects all your monsters from targeting while you control low and your rituals. So, yeah. Barrier's crazy, one of your best cards, and definitely a card you want to see in hand. 1 copy of Blessing. This card doesn't really push your engine, but it is a strong playmaker, and as you saw earlier, it does have a really neat combo with if you have low and Skull Guardian or another ritual in hand. But yeah, generally speaking, this is like the least important of your 3, right? You have this, which is the most important. Then you have Radiance, which is your second most important. And then this is like your least important continuous. We have 2 Called By. We're not running Cross Out in this list. Why? I'm just trying it out, honestly, and it's been working out pretty well for me. I find like this deck can play through quite a bit of hand traps, and even Max C isn't exactly the end of the world. Like, you can pass on minimal interruption and do pretty decent, especially with the protection they have access to. So yeah, I haven't been running Cross Out, and haven't been too mad about it. At first I was bricking on it from time to time, and I just felt like my hands were awkward, so I tried to break this deck down as close to 40 as possible. And honestly, I guess if I was running 41, the 41st card might be a cross out, and I would just like replace an Imperm for a Veiler. But yeah, as it stands, I'm running 40 with no cross out. We have triple Imperm, of course, and the Radiance. For the extra, we have Entis, we have Herald. These are just really solid dumps off of Diviner, you know, if it ever comes up. Sometimes on turn 1, you'll already have Trias and Diviner in hand, so, you know, you can just dump the Herald. And also, there's also scenarios where you can actually just like hard summon the Herald. It's come up a couple of times. Like, for example, if you have low, you could like normal summon Ash Blossom and make Herald just like that and get an Omni Negate. It's niche, but it can happen. We have also the Meteor Burst. This is the card that you're going to be summoning off of your Pendulum Graph after using your spell negate. And Meteor Burst, while it doesn't have the best effect in the world, it does negate all monster effects during the battle phase, which, I mean, that can be useful. It actually did win me a game against Numeron once, which is pretty funny. We have Baron, of course. We have the Chaos Angel. This can come up. Trias is level 9, so there's even scenarios where you can go like Trias low to do a Chaos Angel play. That's pretty good. Otherwise, you know, there's just a lot of scenarios where you'll get like a level 7 plus a level 3 in this deck. You can send a low to the grave with Diviner to make low level Diviner level 3, I mean. And then at that point, you know, you can use your Diviner with any of your rituals. They're all level 7. So any of those, you can make Baron or Chaos Angel depending on the scenario. We've got a Link Haribo here. This is mostly just as an easy way to get into the SP play. Honestly, probably gonna remove it because I do have All Mirage in this deck, so I don't really end up summoning Link Haribo almost ever. And I did remove Dark from this list also, so might be better off replacing this, to be honest. But yeah, right now it's still here. Secure Garna, All Mirage, I already showed you why we have those. IP Masquerena, very important part of your end board. Elf is pretty underrated. I think it's solid. You can bring back Diviner on opponent's turn to send the Entis and get removal from it. And then on your own turn, you can also just like bring back Diviner and like send Herald of the Arclight to be able to get back into your plays and get back into the grind game. Any Link 2 will get you into it. And even there's moments where with my IP Masquerena, if I get like a weaker version of my full combo, I'll actually just go for an Elf on opponent's turn instead of the Appaloosa, just so I still have my low left on the field so that I can use it as ritual material. And then at that point with the Elf, I can just bring back Diviner from the grave and, like I said, send Entis, right? So yeah, I like Elf a lot in this deck. Also, it brings you targeting protection in case like your barrier is not working right now because you don't have low on the field or something like that. You get even more targeting protection. Now we have 2 Dynamondo. This card is really good. Its ability to bring back rituals during your opponent's draw phase so that you can like set up your Skull Guardian and your low and get another back row from low is really solid. So yeah, definitely can't sleep on Dynamondo, and I would definitely run 2 in the grind game. It's very useful. So yeah, just a great card. We have SP here. This is basically like a very similar card actually to Dynamondo when you actually think about it. But yeah, SP is a great target for IP, kind of similar to Elf in different scenarios. You might want to go for SP. Appaloosa also a target for IP, and Underworld Goddess also a really good target for IP. But anyway, that's the list. I hope this was a solid introduction to the deck. Tried to show some interesting combos and stuff. Didn't want to make it too long. You know, I got some decent results with it in ladder, and I do think it's solid, and I'll probably do more content on this deck, like streaming it and stuff like that, and maybe even trying other variants of the deck. But for now, I feel like just a nice introduction video showing you different combos and introducing you to the cards should be good enough. So thank you for checking out the video. Make sure to like, comment, all that stuff. Really appreciate it. And yeah, you have a good one.